The Tardigrade Practically Invisible, Indestructible Water Bears by Cornelia Dean. Grade 8, Quiz 9. Paragraph 1. When scientists at the American Museum of Natural History mounted an exhibit about creatures that survived under conditions few others can tolerate, they did not have to go far to find the show's mascot. "We just got them from Central Park," said Mark Siddall, a curator of the show. "Life at the limits. Scoop up some moss and you'll find them." He was talking about tardigrades, tiny creatures that live just about everywhere, in moss and lichens, but also in bubbling hot springs, Antarctic ice, deep-sea trenches, and the Himalayan mountains. They have seen and even survived the extreme cold and radiation of outer space. Typically taupish and somewhat translucent, and 1/16 of an inch or so long, they are variously described as resembling tiny hippopotamuses if hippos had giant snouts and 8 legs, each with several claws. Mites, or most commonly bears. Many people call them water bears, or bears of the moss. The word tardigrade is from the Latin for slow walker and pronounced tardigrade. Paragraph 5. Once an object of interest only among zoological specialists, tardigrades now are generating widespread enthusiasm. Admirers have pronounced artwork and children's books about them and have even organized the International Society of Tardigrade Hunters. According to the society formed this year at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, people can find tardigrades if they gather some lichen or moss, especially on a damp day, put it in a shallow dish of water, and shake the contents a little bit. Debris will settle to the bottom of the dish, and tardigrades will probably be prowling in it. The museum exhibit, which runs until January, also includes beetles, flowers, corals, and other animals with unusual ways of coping with hostile environments, but its entrance is guarded by a 10-foot replica of tardigrade seemingly floating overhead. That's fitting because the tardigrade, which has a natural lifespan of about a year, is particularly impressive among the exhibit's extreme files. Paragraph 8. Confronted with drying rapid temperature changes in water salinity, or other problems, tardigrades can curtail their metabolism to 0.01% of normal, entering a kind of suspended animation in which they lose the vast majority of their body water. Dr. Siddall said, "They curl up into something called a ton. Tons can be subjected to atmospheric pressure 600 times that of the surface of Earth, and they will bounce right back. They can be chilled to more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero, for more than a year, and come back to life with no problem. The European Space Agency once sent tons into space. 2/3 survived exposure to solar radiation in the vacuum of space at the same time." Paragraph 10. Without water, the damaging effects of freezing cannot happen, Dr. Siddall explained. It protects against heat because the water inside cannot turn into a gas that expands. Even radiation needs water to do damage, he said. When cosmic radiation hits water in a cell, it produces a highly reactive form of oxygen that damages cell DNA. The ton doesn't have this problem. After more than a century, tons have been brought back to life as tardigrades, looking not a day older. Little is known about their evolution, which is too bad because biologists think it might have been interesting, but tardigrades fossils are hard to spot. For a long time, biologists grouped them with arthropods, other creatures mostly small with 8 legs. People who have become fascinated by tardigrades often say they came across a photo or article by chance. Paragraph 15. "I just stumbled across it," said Thomas Gusek, an artist and illustrator, and Miriam Khan, who created the tardigrade Queen, an acrylic on canvas work depicting a tardigrade on a throne, complete with tiara and royal crest, which was shown at the Todd Werney Gallery in Kansas City, Missouri. Paragraph 16. "I stumbled on a photograph of one," he said in a telephone interview. "I was just fascinated. Though he was never seen a tardigrade in the wild," he said, "more than any creature on the face of the planet, The tardigrade is tough and quick to recover from any challenge. I like their little claws. They look like hands, he added. I thought, this thing warrants royalty status. Another tardigrade enthusiast, Michael W. Shaw of Richmond, Virginia, got interested in them more than a decade ago when he was helping his two daughters with school science projects. Though he knew nothing about tardigrades, his degree was in fine arts. He ended up taking microscopes into his daughter's classes to spread the word about the fascinating creatures. Later, he made his own contribution to the scientific literature. I read a paper about tardigrades showing where they were in the U.S. and New Jersey, where we were living at the time, had a 0, he said. Mr. Shaw, who was living then in Summerest, decided to visit every one of the 21 counties in New Jersey and sample lichen and tree bark, 2 microenvironments hospitable to tardigrades. Between 2001 and 2009, he said, I went to rural and urban cities, parking lots, nature preserves, anywhere. I found them in every county. His family thought his obsession was strange, he said, but the work, which he completed with the help of Dr. William Miller, a tardigrade expert at Baker University in Kansas, was published in the Journal of the New York Microscopical Society. In ordinary life, the tardigrades don't get up too much. Dr. Siddell said that, like most animals, they spend their time hanging out and eating plants and animals smaller than themselves, and possibly even indulging in cannibalism or eating other tardigrades. People often say, what's their purpose? What's their role in the universe? Dr. Siddell said he has no ready answer. He did say that attributing some kind of larger purpose of the tardigrade is not something a biologist would want to do. Creatures don't have to have a purpose. They merely are. 1. Top describes something that is the color gray with a small amount of brown. 2. Translucent means clear or able to see through. 3. An extremophile is a microorganism that lives in extreme conditions, i.e. very hot or very cold conditions. 4. Salinity is the amount of salt found in a body of water. 5. Metabolism is the process by which a living organism uses food to obtain energy. Number 1. Read the following detail from paragraph 9 of the text. The European Space Agency once sent terns into space. 2/3 survived exposure to solar radiation in the vacuum of space in the same time. The purpose of these lines is most likely to A. Illustrate the difficulty of studying tardigrades, B. Contrast tardigrades studies in Europe to those being conducted in the United States, C. Compare the ways tardigrades are studied in space to how they are studied on Earth, D. Demonstrate that tardigrades can live in extreme environments. 2. Why does the author include the information in paragraph 4? A. To describe how the tardigrade gets its coloring. B. To explain how the tardigrade uses its small size to its advantage. C. To illustrate what a tardigrade looks like. D. To explain how early discoverers thought tardigrades were related to bears. 3. Which piece of evidence from the article best supports the claim that even people without a scientific background can study tardigrades? A. For a long time, biologists grouped them with arthropods, other creatures, mostly small with 8 legs. Paragraph 13. B. After more than a century, tons have been brought back to life as tardigrades looking not a day older. Paragraph 11. C. Little is known about their evolution, which is too bad because biologists think it must have been interesting, but tardigrades' fossils are hard to spot. Paragraph 12. D. Another tardigrade enthusiast, Michael W. Shaw of Richmond, Virginia, got interested in them more than a decade ago when he was helping his 2 daughters with a school project. Paragraph 18. 4. Which detail will be most important to include in a summary of the article? A. For a long time, biologists grouped them with arthropods, other creatures, mostly small with 8 legs. Paragraph 13. B. Thomas Giesick said, more than any creature on the face of the planet, the tardigrade is tough and quick to recover from any challenge. Paragraph 16. C. Later, Michael W. Shaw made his own contribution to a scientific literature. Paragraph 19. D. In ordinary life, tardigrades don't get up too much. Paragraph 22. Reread the sentence from paragraph 9. Tons can be subjected to atmospheric pressure 600 times that of the surface of Earth. They will bounce right back. What is the best meaning of the phrase bounces right back? A. Recover quickly. B. Jump up and down. C. Bend easily. D. Maintain positivity. Directions. Answer the following questions relating to the passage titled The Tardigrade, Practically Invisible, Indestructible Water Bears. 6. What does the information about Thomas Giesecke show about the response people had to tardigrades? Use at least 2 details from the story to support your response.